What is up, YouTube? This is Nanashi with a brand new deck profile video. This time I'll be showing you my brand new Krawler deck. The thing that attracted me to Krawlers in the first place is the fact that every single one of their monsters connects to a piece of human biology. And when I started researching into it, I immediately fell in love with the archetype because of the referential material. And then I fell more for it because of the fact that even though it's slow at first, it actually does things as time moves on. Let me show you what I got. Starting with the monster lineup, we have a playset of Krawler Axon. Now I'm going to save you some time and let you know that every Krawler shares the same common effect. If they are removed from the field while face up due to an opponent's card effect, you special summon 2 Krawler monsters with different names from your deck in face down defense except a copy of itself. Now his unique effect is that when he's flipped face up, you target a spell trap and destroy it. Dendrite, who has the highest attack among all the Krawlers, has a unique effect of sending a monster from your deck to the graveyard. 3 Glial. When he's flipped, you can special summon a Krawler from your hand or graveyard in face-up attack or face-down defense, except itself. 2 Ranveer. When flipped, you target up to 2 Krawlers in your grave and put them in your hand. 2 Receptor, who adds 1 Krawler monster from your deck to your hand when flipped. And the retrain of Maneater Bug himself, Krawler Spine. When he's flipped, you target a monster on the field and destroy it. Now while the deck may not have a tremendous number of monsters, it definitely has a large variety of spells. Starting off with a staple Dark Hole, a staple Monster Reborn, a pair of MST because, well, the more expensive cards aren't really within my reach right now, and Twin Twisters doesn't benefit this deck by discarding from your hand. A pair of Scapegoat, which I ironically don't use very often. It special summons 4 tokens. You can't summon the turn you play it, so obviously you're going to play it during your opponent's turn. 2 Terraforming, obviously to search out their very important field spell, which is known as the triple copies of World Legacy in Shadow. All Krawlers gain 300 attack and defense. Once per turn, you can special summon a level 2 or lower insect from your hand in face-up defense or face-down defense. And when your flip monster is destroyed by battle with an opponent's monster, you can send that opponent's monster to the graveyard. Triple World Legacy Survivor, their brand new spell they just got. You reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, you add a Krawler monster or World Legacy card among those cards to your hand, and the rest go to the graveyard. But if you don't have any, or you don't take any, those cards are shuffled back into the deck. And for the rest of this turn after this card resolves, you cannot special monsters from the extra deck except Lynx. And the spell card that I use for tokens a lot more often, Wormbait. If you control an insect, you special summon 2 worm tokens in defense, but you cannot normal or special summon any level 3 or 4 monsters the turn you play this card, which is fine because they're all level 2. Next we move into the trap cards. Starting with a staple pair of Bottomless Trap Hole, a staple Solemn Warning, obviously, 2 World Legacy Pawns. It flips a face-down monster you control face-up into face-up attack or defense position, which obviously triggers their flip effects, and you can shuffle a Krawler from your graveyard into the main deck and target a face-up monster you control and change it to face-down defense. But you can only use one of these 2 effects per turn. If it allowed both effects to be used, this card would be a lot better. Which is an issue I also have with World Legacy's Mind Meld, being able to only use one of its 2 effects per turn, but its effects are significantly better. When an opponent's monster activates its effect while you control a Krawler monster, the activated effect is changed to returning a face-up monster the opponent controls to the hand, which triggers every Krawler monster special ability. And you can banish this card from your graveyard, targeting a Link monster on the field and special summoning a Krawler monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard to your zone the card points to in face-down defense. Next we move into the side deck. Starting with a spare copy of Dendrite, a spare copy of Ranveer, a spare copy of Receptor, a playset of Retaliating Sea, the best hand trap I could find that fits this archetype in some small way. If your opponent activates a spell card that includes the effect to special summon a monster or monsters, you can special summon him from your hand, and if he's special summoned this way, he's a Macrocosmos. And if he's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add an Earth Insect type monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand, except himself, which means that he can search everything. A spare MST, 1 compulsory, 2 Fiendish Chain in the event I need more negation, triple Gozen match, which locks both players into controlling only one attribute at a time, and since this deck's pure Earth, I have no reason to care. 1 Mirror Force, and a spare World Legacy Pawns. And now we finish up with the first ever extra deck I've ever owned that is 100% Link monsters. First up, we have a pair of Link Spider. I mainly summon him for the sake of using the tokens I get off Scapegoat or Worm Baits, but I don't use this effect to special summon a normal monster from my hand because I don't run any. Now, I don't have my copy on me at the moment, I can't find it, but I am planning on running one copy of Nightmare Cerberus when I get my hands on it, whose effect can discard a card to target a special summon monster on the field and destroy it, and if I do so and he happens to be co-linked, which isn't hard with this deck, I get to draw a card. And as long as he's face up, co-linked monsters can't be destroyed by card effects, which does come into play with some of the cards in this deck that I commonly use. Also one copy of Mrs. Radiant, and since this deck is all Earth monsters, obviously that gives me benefit. Boosts all Earths by 500, reduces all Winds by 400, and if it's destroyed by that card effect, I take any Earth monster in my grave and put it back in my hand. 1 Subterra Behemoth Fiendus. It requires 2 flip monsters. During your main phase, you can send a flip monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, you special summon a monster from your hand in face-down defense to your zone that it points to. If a monster this card points to is flip face-up, you add a flip monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. We have a playset of Krawler Neurogos. It requires 2 insect monsters, which means it's somewhat generic. Krawler monsters it points to cannot be destroyed by battle, gain 300 attack and defense, and if they battle your opponent's monster, any battle damage they take is doubled. And all of the Krawler Link monsters share one common effect as well, which is that if they are destroyed by battle or leave the field because of an opponent's card effect while its owner controls it, I can take any 2 Krawlers in my graveyard with different names and special summon them face down. Now, Synaphysis is the identical twin brother to Neurogos, except that Krawler monsters this card points to cannot be destroyed by battle, gain 300 attack and defense, and can make up to 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase. Also, instead of requiring 2 insect monsters, it requires 2 earth monsters. And then we have the deck's big boss, Krawler Qualiard, requiring 2 Krawler monsters, and the only Link monster the archetype has that points downward in some direction. Its unique effects are threefold. If you have 2 or more Krawlers, all monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense. If you have 4 or more Krawlers, your opponent's cards and effects cannot be activated during the battle phase. And if you have 6 or more, I don't know why they said that, but whatever, then your monsters can all attack directly. That is a pseudo-win condition this deck actually wins with the most often, because it's not difficult to repopulate the field, especially if your opponent is actually trying to hurt you. And finally, we have 1 copy of Trigate Wizard, a leftover from when this deck used to be the Gem Knight Rock Spam deck. Now, if he's co-linked to 1 monster, if a monster that's co-linked to this card battles the opponent's monster, any battle damage it does is doubled. Once per turn, you can target a card on the field and banish it if he has 2 co-links. But if he has 3 co-links, which is the effect that everyone knows about, during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a card effect, you can negate it and banish it. And that's the deck. I'll be honest, Krawlers are known to be a very slow and very clunky archetype due to the fact that they're just a giant flip system. And I do already have a flip-based deck in Penguins. But the thing is, this deck is unique in the fact that it abuses being a flip-based archetype, and that its flip effects, while starting out at something as simple as what Man-Eater Bug does and expanding into some really bizarre effects like Foolish Burial class abilities, through these combinations of effects, they have the potential to be an interesting and honestly powerful combination system. If you give it a chance to set up its own pace, the deck can actually overrun your opponent with a field full of little buggers, no pun intended, who can slowly but surely chip away at your opponent until they are so highly populated they just bypass the monsters and hit your opponent directly. And that is the most common way that you win with this deck. I was not kidding. I thank you guys for watching the video, and if you can think of any way that I can improve on this All-Earth deck, feel free to let me know. But in the meantime, this has been Nanashi, signing out.